George, do you want to share first?
I'll make a quick introduction. Okay,
Yep.
recording is started. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Wellington.net user group. We are excited to have you all join us for today's online meetup. Last time I remember we had in-person event, but this time our speakers are based in Australia, so we run it online. For those who may be new, the Wellington.net user group is a community of .NET developers in the Wellington area who gather regularly to learn, share, and network with each other. Our goal is to create welcoming and collaborative environment for all .NET developers to connect and grow their skills. Today, we have great speakers and topics, so just relax and enjoy the presentation. Especially the topic is about OpenAI, which is super hot topic and moment. Once again, welcome. So next, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to Microsoft.Source. That's a newsletter that provides you with the latest news and updates about Microsoft technologies, including Azure.NET and some live shows and more. I believe you will find this newsletter should be valuable. It's a great way to stay informed about new releases, upcoming events, and exciting developments in the Microsoft community. Especially if you are interested in some Microsoft technologies or some certificates. If you subscribe this newsletter, you can get some notification. Microsoft would host some trainings, and probably you can get some free coupons to take the exam. So if you are interested in subscribing the Microsoft.Source newsletter, we just visit the URL aka.ms/dev newsletter. You can subscribe that. So on the right side, that's a new program called New Breakpoint. It's a quarterly show. I think there's some interviews and presentations run by Microsoft. So you can find the recordings as well. Next, I'll often show this slide every time. Call for speakers. We are always looking for passionate and knowledgeable speakers who are interested in sharing their knowledge and expertise with the .NET community. If you have a topic that you are passionate about and would like to present at our future meetups, we would like to hear from you. Or you know someone who can do that, feel free to let me know. I think our goal is to create a platform for the community to learn from each other and share knowledge. The topic could be .NET, C#, Cloud Native, Azure, DevOps, maybe some design patterns or anything about software and Microsoft technologies. So if you are interested in speaking at one of our future meetups, feel free to reach out to me, or you can contact me on our meetup page, or you find my name on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so you can contact me directly. We would like to hear from you. Just we can help you share your knowledge with the community. So I understand some developers are kind of not very confident for presentation, but I'm sure I can help because I'm also had experience like when I first time made some presentations for many attendees. Definitely you feel less confident, but yeah, it can make it better through practice. Okay. And next, that's today's speakers. Today we have two fantastic speakers who are experts in their fields. I think someone may know them. So George is a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft, based in Melbourne, with more than 2 decades of experience in the tech industry. I think George, you run some the community called Azure Tar, right? Azure Tar.
Yeah, AzureTar.com and on YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, you can find George on on a YouTube channel called Azure Tile. You can search. I can share the link later. And Vic, Vic is a cloud solution architect at Microsoft, also based in Melbourne. Vic has over 17 years of experience with broad knowledge and consulting skills in cloud infrastructure, DevSecOps, and development. I think today we are very fortunate to have them both to share their knowledge and insights with us. I'm really excited actually because they are based in Australia and they actually have that's not the working hours, so I really appreciate that. So another thing is I'd like to connect with more developers or community contributors. Oh, sorry, I don't see. Can you see this one? Yeah. So my name is Xiaodi. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm keen to know more who would like to contribute to the Microsoft technology community. So if you are interested in the Microsoft MP program, you can let me know. I think this year I just nominated one who successfully got the MVP award. So if you are interested in this program, you can let me know. I think that's what I want to introduce. So next I'll hand over to George and Vic. I'll stop sharing. How do I stop?
Yeah, George, do you want to sprint?
Yeah, I can
present?
share from here, Vic. Hello, everyone. Let me share the whole screen. I think it'll be better. Oh, share my. How is that sounding there? Let's see how that's showing here. Let's move these here. Can you see that?
Actually, look at your slides there. Yeah.
Okay, let's try to.
Yeah, just go to the first one. Perfect.
There you go. Yeah, my name is George, like Cheng was saying, cloud developer advocate on the cloud native container space. And Vic.
Yep. Vic Badana, Cloud Solution Architect. We're in the same city in Melbourne. So I work with a lot of ISV and digital native customers, working predominantly with and also partners as well in that space. And Microsoft been around almost 4 years. I think we're starting not far from each other. So
Yeah, I have been around for a long time. Also Microsoft MVP for some time. And if you're in Australia, New Zealand, probably saw something I presenting before. And we are kind of bringing something new today, Vic. Like we never talk about Azure OpenAI service. And I said, why not? Let's talk about for developers, then be very specific. We're not trying to cover everything. We are not experts on AI itself or machine learning. We are like, we like the subject, but we think that we don't have to be experts anymore. It's like ChatGPT. We're going to see that anyone can use that. And that's the whole idea, to demystify, and to show that anyone can use that technology from now on. And AI now is closer to us than ever. And that's the agenda. We're going to do like overview about the service as much as you can. But then you go for the hands-on demos. That will be the fun part. The things that we've been playing as Microsoft employees, and and access to a lot of things. And we cannot show everything, but we're going to show as much as you can. And rest sure that next few weeks and months will be new, release and new products using Azure OpenAI service and be integrated with Azure OpenAI service. And you have to be following and follow us, because you're going to be creating new content and new videos as well. And the idea will be talking about Copilot, GitHub Copilot, Copilot CLI, command line, how we can integrate that with Power Apps, and so on. And let me get started, Vic. What's this app, Azure OpenAI service? And we have like, the evolution of artificial intelligence. Then have like in 56, the idea of artificial intelligence. Then had machine learning, 97. I think not everybody here saw that, but I think I followed the whole way through the machine learning. I was on the market already, finished university there at the time. And then we have something that we'll be discussing recently is like deep learning. And now, I'm not going into details on all these, but now we talk about this GPT and ChatGPT, the so-called generative AI. And you're going to see what's that, something that we get like a prompt, get like some context, existing information, and we send for this model that can just try to associate what's coming next, like a result output for you based on your context. That's what you call prompt. Is a ISO like entry. It gives some information, and based on this model that is trained, you're going to see details how this model is trained, and all the types of models that we have, like for coding, for text, for image. But then, what's happening? I don't know if it's happened with you, Vic, but I was on leave end of the year last year. I was on leave. I went to Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, living in Melbourne for like 16 years. And my brother came to me just like, I think between Christmas and New Year and say, look, have you seen that new ChatGPT thing? And I said, what? What's ChatGPT? Kind of. And then the boss came back from leave on end of January. And it was kind of, so many things happened during my leave, and then was all over the news. I don't know how it was for you, but I hope that you had a chance to try and play with that. But that's what people are talking about, what's behind that, how that works, and and all the use case that we can use that. We have been talking with customers like crazy in the last 2 months, and and so on.
And I don't know about you, but almost every customers and also partners that I work with, they mention or at least have some curiosity about this service. So it's great as us as developers to be be aware of that and be at the front foot.
That's true, and like everyone's asking about that. My wife is asking, her friend from work is asking. And when I give some, instruction how you can use, you have to know how to ask. Then they come back and say, wow, that's amazing. How can I use more? My brother came to me, he said that he did all the market, launch of his online product using ChatGPT, and using all the market campaign using that. And I was amazed. And and now we said, let's start talking about this. But this new service called Azure OpenAI service is nothing more than the partnership that we have with OpenAI company. And you probably saw all over the market the investment Microsoft made on OpenAI company. And we provide like kind of, I think it would be the only cloud provider provide a service on top of OpenAI. And that's a partnership where we can bring the OpenAI models. And those are the models that we're talking about at the moment. Is GPT-3, is Codex for coding, is DALL-E for text, image generation, image and text generation. And even we're building products, I think, designing on top of DALL-E as well. We're building Azure OpenAI to be an API, like Azure Cognitive Service, where we can give not just the OpenAI, but we can bring all the enterprise level service that Azure provides, that Microsoft provides, on top of OpenAI. And then, like I said, Azure OpenAI service is part of what we call the cognitive service, where we have already vision, speech, language, decision, a lot of other services available. And that all, Azure AI all plays on top of the Azure Machine Learning. And you can build things. You can build things on, like we're going to show here, using Power Apps. You can use Power BI, Power Automate, and the sky's the limit because be more service coming. You guys probably heard about Bing is in preview. I have access already. I don't think we're going to show Bing today, but Bing search coming using this, and
A little bit. I'll show a little bit. Yeah.
you can show a little bit. Okay. Then Azure OpenAI Service is a new kid on the block with the partnership with OpenAI. And if you give an overview what this GPT model is that generative pre-trained transformer tree. It's exactly, it's pre-trained on trillions of words. It's a lot of data, and it's growing. You can see there is new versions come, GPT-4, and as soon as they be available, that will be bringing to Azure OpenAI service as well. But at the end of the day, is a text in, text out interface. It's nothing more than an API like the other cognitive service, where we send some text in, like a context, and could be what we call, like, at the moment, it could be maximum, depending on the model, using like 2,000 words, let's say 4,000 tokens, will be kind of roughly 2,000 words. Token will be like 4 characters, could be like a token, like roughly will be like that. And then we pass all these texts, and now people talking about already 8,000 tokens, 4,000 words, and imagine this in the future will be growing and growing. It can pass more information. But the model itself is to generate text based on your prompt, your text in, and based on all that train that we did, that OpenAI did, and we are providing as a service. And the general purpose, like model that you can get this text in and give you the text out, the output, is very flexible. There is no skill required to use that. And that's why ChatGPT is so amazing, because anyone can go there and play. But people now recording video say, how can I use ChatGPT? How can I ask the right questions and things? And nothing more that you're building like a context, like a text in context. And every time that you're giving more information or give information slowly, like, I want to ask about the Docker or Kubernetes or CI/CD. Then you go like growing your questions, like evolving your questions along the way. The context will be more clear for the model to answer, to get like the text out the way that you expect. And the UX for that, the user interface is very simple. It's like a prompt. You just give a text, I give another text. That's why ChatGPT. So that's it. That's the only thing you can do. You can, with Azure OpenAI service, you can call an API. You have full access to the API for sure. Get your API key, and you can say, George, can you show me how I can use OpenAI service? It's just API. You just get a API key, and you call like a REST API, passing your text in, maybe setting some parameters, and then it can get your response. And when you say that machine learning size for everyone is like, we bring machine learning, deep learning, and now this new generative AI model to everyone. And it's nothing more than giving this prompt as an input and get something back. I give you, can you extract the email from like this message or from this email? They're going to give the address from there. Okay, you can use other models to do that. Yes, you can. Azure OpenAI is not about like a single model. There are different levels of models that can do more complex things or more simple things. GPT is not for everything, because we have cognitive service on Azure where you can find very simple models and very cheaper models as well, maybe to do this thing. But GPT, you can do anything. And
I use it to plan a trip as well, a couple of weeks back. So rented a car, and then I've got a allowance, kilometer allowance, how many Ks. I just want to see, which cities or countries that I can go to, as in, regions and so on. So for a day trip, and it's really good. It actually gave me pretty good suggestions. So I've got 250 kilometers allowance, and then give me different destinations that I can go to round trip. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, the Bing is going to be nice because you're going to do that and at the same time get information from the internet. But at the same time, we talk about responsible AI as well. That we have a layer on top of that to make sure that we are fair and we're not giving kind of cleaning that the way that the customer can feel trust on the service as well. And that's why it's still in preview, because we're still working on that level of responsible AI on top of the Bing itself. Because keep in mind, this model was trained by, like I said, trillions of words. The only thing they're trying to do is they're not a brain. They're not like, they're not replaced like a human brain. They just trying to get the text and try to find the next word, the next sentence. And when you give more context, it gets better, find those right words. And an example of this would be like GPTs for text. Just ask anything. Can you write a tagline for ice cream shop? He's going to write. You can use for coding like SQL. Who hates like writing SQL commands? And maybe Vic is going to show that more in details with Copilot and how Copilot is getting better and better every day. And imagine if you give the context, if they have your database model available and you can just ask things. That's pretty much what you can do. And the DALL-E is about image. Have a cat with blue eyes. And even I think those images that we're using as background was generated by DALL-E, or if I'm not wrong, I think was the background image that we're using here. And let's go for the next one. If you think about these three, group of models for code and text and image, what Azure OpenAI provides on top of that? That's everything that we have on Azure subscription for security. That will be only accessed by yourself. You'll be based on your data sets and applications, or used by those applications that you have. It's not going to be shared with anyone. It will be a service where you're going to deploy those models, as we're going to see here, and it will be only used by your subscription on Azure. You can, unlock like new options, new scenarios where you can pre-train or customize models, what they call fine-tune data, and you can have parameters for that. We're not going details how to do that. I can show here some screens how to do that. We're not going to play with these, customized models. I think something that's in preview and will be more advanced topic. You need some skills in AI to do that. But I tell you what, the base models that we have, they are so good that and products being built on top of that, like Copilot, you maybe don't have to do that unless you're going to do for like an organization use case, as you're going to see here as well. But Azure OpenAI Service give you the building service or security that Azure provides, like role-based access control. And we also have this responsible AI on top of the models to make sure that any what you call harmful use, as Vicky, I think you saw people say, this kind of model can give you the wrong answer or can give you like something that's not very nice. With Azure OpenAI, we're trying to mitigate that with a responsible AI to remove those kind of things. But still in preview, still getting better. And you have to understand, if you're going to use the service, that you can get different answer all the time, because just text and just trying to get the best option. He always trying to get better, and to try to find the best, answer or the best word. And everything that you change in your input is going to change the output, even if it's small change.
Yeah, we don't demonstrate the DALL-E, but certainly it's part of one example of that is Bing Image Creator. It uses that DALL-E technology. So feel free to try that if you haven't before. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
But the models that we're all talking about now is those GPT models. And the last one that DaVinci that everyone's talking about, DaVinci 1, 2, 3, and this one is a very expensive one. As you can see, it's very capable. But there are other options as well, and cheaper options and faster options. DaVinci is slow, take longer. And some people complain, ChatGPT takes a long time. It's because it's very, heavy processing there. And it's a lot of information that this model was trained, and it's very heavy processing there. And on the other side, Vic is going to show the Copilot using Codex models as well. And those are the models that I think Copilot are using and kind of building and fine-tuning those models for Copilot as well. But those are the difference. DaVinci is like, 4,000 tokens you can get. This will be the 2,000 words. And it's more capable. You can do very complex, summarizations and even like create more creative things using DaVinci. But if your use case is very simple, maybe you can use the other ones. You don't have to use the DaVinci, and you have to find the use case for each one of them and see which one works better. And keep in mind, those here at the bottom are very, if you compare with DaVinci, I think it will be 120 of the price. So the price difference is a huge because of the amount of the computing we need to use the DaVinci model. If you have any questions, you can, I don't know if anyone, does it mean GPT models are for general purpose and Codex is focused on programming? Yes, Codex is for programming, and GPT will be pretty much based on those use cases. And because the DaVinci can do like kind of everything, people are using, DaVinci, but you don't have to. You can use the other ones if you want to do like classifications or summarizations that not that complex. And GPT is not for everything as well. We have other, cognitive service that you can use. Doesn't mean that GPT will be for everything. Okay. If you wanna, customize the models, that's the way that you do it. I'm not going too much in detail. I just want to show that you can do it. I can show here later the documentation explaining how to do that. You can do that from the Azure portal. You can do that using REST API or Python. And it's pretty much getting the base model. Let's say you can get the DaVinci or can get the Ada, and you can train those models with maybe your data. And you're going to see that Copilot is kind of doing that for us. Copilot is now offering a business version, Vic, that maybe you can talk about a little bit, where they're going to be able to see the code in your repository and use that, as a context. It'll be amazing to see how that's going to play. I haven't tested myself. But keep in mind, the Azure OpenAI service provides access to the, OpenAI API itself, and you can train your model and deploy the model that you trained. And I think that's amazing, just to be able to do that. And the service is more than just the base, models from OpenAI. You can customize and train the model with your company data, and it'll be only used by your company. And Vic, capabilities of that. I think the sky is the limit there. Use case like writing blogs, code generation, language translation. You can translate from different language. I don't know if you tried that on ChatGPT, but we're going to see a very fun example. Like I give information in Portuguese and give instructions in English and ask him to write an email for the customers in English, and that works. That opens so many possibilities, and then image creation with DALL-E and so on. Then I don't know, it's so many possibilities, and we're asking the customers what they want to use that, and we're trying different options, to be honest. And the top 4 use cases and capabilities are content generation like call center, for example, summarizations, social media trends, or call center from the feedbacks from the customers as well. You can get all that information from the logs, from the existing logs. I think if you look in the documentation from Microsoft, there are some customers use case there. I don't want to show here because I don't want to sell anything, but you can look for customers that are using that and how they're using that. But those are the kind of use case coming from the real customers already that did the preview with us. And code generation, Vic is going to show. The code documentation is amazing. The SQL, the data model things, and so on. I'm not going details. There's a lot of options that you can have. All the searching coming with Bing, that will be, I don't know, I'm playing with that, and I think that's very nice. One simple example, there's a couple of examples here. Will be imagining like a document processing where using like cognitive service and use like form recognizer. You can get the information from the document. You can search on this document, and you could be using like a Cosmos DB and Azure Functions to call Azure OpenAI service, passing those information that you're searching using the cognitive search, getting the output, and maybe using Power BI or web application to display that or to show the way that you want. Means it's not just like Azure OpenAI service, it's a combination. You're going to build a solution using that. And that's where, if you are like a consultant or a developer or anyone that want to use that, think about solutions. How can you offer this in your company for the customers if you are a partner as well? Another one will be a call center where imagining get, like the audio files and translating that to text using cognitive service. You have these already. You can do speech to text using Azure Cognitive Service. Then you can use OpenAI, passing those texts from the conversation and ask for something. And you can do all that insights, the conversation insights, using Power BI, using a CRM's product like Microsoft CRM. And what I'm saying here is that you don't have to use Azure OpenAI for the whole thing. You have other services that you can use more specific for like speech to text, and then you can use OpenAI to get summarization or get insights from that. Make sense, Vic?
Very much. It's good. It's amazing that this is actually done in a very fast manner. I'm not sure if with the OpenAI and ChatGPT and so on, the amount of growth to reach that 100 million. I'm not sure if you guys saw a tweet from someone where typically like different companies like Facebook or Instagram and so on took many months to get to 100 million, whereas for OpenAI and ChatGPT only took 1 month to reach that 100 million. So if not mistaken, I believe it's around that anyway. It's amazing. And the application of this is so wide that even my accountant actually called me and just just asking about, what this is and how can I use it. So if someone like, normal people and, like non-technology I'm talking about, person kind of asking about it, it means that it has that critical mass. So there's a lot of possible use cases here.
Yeah, that's true. But let's go to try to show something running here. And before that, just remember I was talking about the Azure Attack community. It's on YouTube. It's also on Twitter and on LinkedIn as well. Please follow us. And I think we're going to release a video. There are some like amazing videos here in English, in Portuguese as well. But what's Azure OpenAI service is nothing more than a cognitive service. You can see here Azure OpenAI, and together with all the other cognitive service, vision, face, computer vision, then I have one that I was lucky to get access. Vic got one as well. And once you open that, you can open the Azure OpenAI Studio. And here you can see networking, identity, all the security that Azure brings to the service, like the keys to get access to the service, the module deployments. You are able to see everything from here as well, the keys to have access, the networking to connect that, the identity, all the enterprise level. I can disable that for the internet and only make this service available for my private network. And that's the difference between the OpenAI service and the Azure OpenAI service. As we bring all the Azure enterprise security, everything on top, role-based access control. You can see here the access control as well. Then once you open the studio, you'll be able to to play and see all the deployments and deploy models as well, even customize the models like we discussed. And an example that I was playing here before we start was, I got a message, Vicky, in Portuguese. And, in Portuguese, that means like, dear customers will be, out of service between 2 and 3 a.m. On the next Sunday, 5th of February. And I'm giving instructions now. And that's how, GPT and OpenAI works, like ChatGPT. You can pick your deployment. I'm using the DaVinci text one. So I'm not using the Codex for code. I'm using DaVinci. And I'm giving now instructions. I give it like some context that I want, and I give context. Can you write a formal email communication for customers in English and offer help at this email? Be apologetic where possible, using time format, use name, company name, and look this. They just create the thing for us. This, there are all these settings, that parameters that you can use. You can look documentation here to understand exactly if you want to change that. If you drop a little bit, it'll be faster, but it'll be less, not. You can see here like the module B become deterministic or repetitive. Depends on how you change those parameters. Then 1 will be the maximum. You'll be, I was trying to find the best option for you. And if you bring that down, probably I was bring the same answer or something like that. But what happened is when you change that, also change the number of tokens that you pay. Like you're passing 176 tokens, probably is the size of this thing here. And the cost depends of the size as well. Because you are using your tokens and you pay based on tokens. Is that correct, Vic?
Yeah.
I don't like to go much in cost, but just to make sure that this playground here, you pay for that as well. Okay, don't go nuts and you pay for that.
So if you have an API key, because you can actually access this using API key, make sure that you secure it, right? or make sure you rotate it as well. Because if someone got a hold of that, they can actually run
It's
those
like
things. So
using,
obviously, yeah,
it's like calling like storage account or something,
indeed.
or a key vault, anything that you pass in like a key, you have like an endpoint.
Yeah.
And make sure that, yes, those keys will be safe and everything will be safe. But that's the playground. And as you can see here, you have the deployments and the models. You just pick the models that you want and just create a deployment. I have done those deployments already. And if you want to customize the model, it's like a wizard where you're going to select the base model. I don't have access to that yet, but I can show the documentation where you pretty much select the base model that will be like DaVinci or the other base models.
Yeah.
And then you're going to bring training data, validation data if you want. And yeah, there are some options that you can do like extra parameters, and they're going to create a customized model for you on that. And you can do from here, from the portal, or you can use REST API or Python to do that training as well. If you want to do from here, you can also bring your data. Like you can upload from Azure Blob Storage, from local files. You can bring the data that you're going to be used to train the models. And that can be done from the portal here, or you can do from automation as well. Like if you want to be training every week or every second day or every month, retraining the model, you can automate this process, and you can use REST API or Python to do that automation there. Or you can just do, if you want to just play, you can just come here and do from the portal as well. I hope that makes sense, Vic, and I want to see you showing that working, or in your demos there. And at the end, I can come back and show that Copilot CLI. But let's go for your demos, and I'm going to stop sharing here maybe, and then you can share your screen.
No problem. I'll take over. Thank you, George, and thanks for the opportunity to present on the Azure OpenAI service. So before I get into the demo, I'll just go through kind of additional examples, and I think George already gone through that anyway. But a bunch of use cases that you can use here around, prompt, and if you want to get certain outputs and how to manipulate that output, you can provide some instructions in natural language, and you can then make sure that, for example, the output's in a certain way, you can provide that information. So for example, here, a customer conversation, in sort of insurance call center settings, where it uses potentially using some sort of speech to text capability. And then what's happening is that Azure OpenAI Service can then extract that information from text and then summarize that in, those key points. What the main reason for the conversation, what's the final outcome, and what's the sentiment of the customer, and so on. This one here is also another way of getting the right sort of information, kind of similar, but you manipulate the output of that data, right? So I want the output to be in a JSON format, and this is a great example of use case, various use cases that you can integrate the output of this to other systems, like Power BI reporting, or maybe to your CRM systems and other things that you can then explore and kind of manipulate. And the last one, I don't want to use the same example again, but this is very interesting, right? So German and so on, Portuguese, it can receive that input and then able to sort of write it in a different language with certain parameters or certain instructions, which is very, very cool. And you guys, I'm sure if you already use ChatGPT, the type of kind of possibilities, the different possibilities that you can use. Again, it uses GPT in this case. So this doesn't have that context around kind of if you're trying to continue the conversation trying to remember the previous conversation and so on. It doesn't have that. However, this actually can, if you prompt it, it can generate or understand natural language. All right, so let's get into the demo. So what I'm doing here is one example of integrating Azure OpenAI using API, using API of that. So we showed a little bit about that API key and so on. So it's basically using that. And the Power App is just the, I guess, the UI or the interface. It can be other app as well. So if you build it on, in .NET or, obviously this is .NET Community. I want to talk about other framework. But if you are in other framework as well, you can use that as well. In this case, I've got Power App, and then I've got Power Automate Flow, which calls Azure OpenAI Service. So let me just open that up. So I've recorded this, right? So again, I can show you the real stuff if you want, but let's see what we've got here, right? So first of all, so this is a very basic Canvas app, Power App, right? So it got two text boxes, as you can see, the input and then the output, or the result. And then this bunch of buttons on the top kind of give you the predefined data on this. And as soon as I click any of these, right, so this is just a bunch of use cases that I just showed you before, similar to how you do it in Playground. However, we want to actually use it in our app. And this is a possible way of doing it. And if you click submit, then it will call, it will pass the data and put them in a variable, and then it will pass it on to the API. And at the same time, it then grabs the data and then from the API result, and then pass it on, and then go to that text box on the output. The second part here is the SQL, right? So the SQL demo is pretty much, being able to generate code using that capability of Codex, right? So similar to what we just mentioned before. And we've got Codex, we've got other models, and another thing that we can do with this is also classification, right? So being able to classify following news article with these choices, business, tech, politics, support, and then it recommends what is the classification on this piece of text here. And then if I go past unstructured, so this is interesting. So this one, it understands or trying to correlate the different words or sentences, and also give you provide some patterns initially to then allow the OpenAI to then learn from those patterns and give you the results on this format here: fruit, color, and flavor. Again, this is a planet called Gukrux. I'm not sure whether you know whether that's a real planet or not. If you learn physics, also you know. I'm not sure you know about that, George.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Planet Gukrux. Anyway, this one
here.
One
thing I like that, Vic, is that we never had a product that so many companies and partners integrated, in a couple of months. And people are really, really, looking forward to integrate any product with this thing. Is amazing. And you just did like with Power Apps there. Very quickly, you create that from scratch using the demos documentation. That's it.
Yeah,
I was done from scratch. You haven't copied, the thing. You just follow the instructions and you create one. It's just like API code then.
Exactly. If you're familiar with Power App, it is very easy. I wasn't that familiar, but then I was able to figure it out, in an hour or so to get that working. So with this one here, right? So this one here, a list of companies, and again, it's patterns recognition. So understand kind of the companies that we have, and the list and the categories they belong to, and then I put in FedEx at the end, and then the result kind of give me, the categories that make sense from here. So in terms of kind of building that, again, it comes back to that flow, right? So Power Automate flow. I'll just open that up, and then as you can see here, it's basically just a bunch of text boxes and buttons, and then I've got Power Automate flow here. That is pretty much the core integration to OpenAI API, Azure OpenAI Service API, and then you can see that there's HTTP calls that will call that API. Again, there's API key in here. I know it's recorded. It will not be usable after this demo. So if you want to use it, feel free, but it won't be usable after this demo. But yeah, here's the URI, right? And then here's the JSON, which kind of pass the body, and then go through and do some loop from the output from there, and then put them in the variable, and then put them in a summary text variable, which will then pass on to that result text box at the end there. So yeah, so that's pretty much in that result text box there. Cool. So how simple it is to build. And again, this is just an example. As long as your application can make a call via REST API, which I'm sure 100% of application can, 99% if not, can do that. You'll be able to integrate quite easily to OpenAI API. So, all right. So the next bit, which I'm going to talk about, is again, if you have any questions, feel free to just put in the text or the chat. And I guess George, I won't be able to do multitasking, so I'll be asking you to help out on that.
Yeah, there is just a question about if the Azure OpenAI Service is a commercial release or experimental. No, it's not experimental. It's in preview already. Like once it's in public preview, it's kind of at the moment is public there, but you have to ask to get access. But
yes, it is. Yeah, so it's interesting the way we do this. OpenAI Service is currently generally available, right? But the service requires registration, which is interesting, right? And that's because demand. Again, I mentioned to you about 100 million in, I don't know, a month or so with ChatGPT, and that's kind of translate to Azure OpenAI Service as well.
Yeah, he's just asking about if it's for commercial use. Look, there are customers using that already. It's to be used. I have to keep in mind that is in preview. It's always
it is.
The model itself, we cannot, we protect as much as you can, like responsible AI and all the security around Azure, like networking, keys, and everything.
Yeah.
But what's coming from that is another thing, you understand? Like.
Yeah. So there's one partner that I've already passed it into the chat window there. I work obviously in the partner land, and they understand it's a Canadian company and they're already using it, in the product, which is fantastic. Cool. The other thing that we have here, I'm going to move on, is to give a quick overview of Copilot. And Copilot, in a way, it's a intelligence on steroid, right? So it helps you be more productive. It helps you kind of reduce the amount of repetitive work, and just able to, for you to be able to focus more on the work that is more potentially challenging and more meaningful to you, right? So the three things or three use cases here, which I'll show you as well in the demo, is that one, you can use Copilot to convert pseudocode. Describe your logic that you want, and then Copilot will then assemble the code for you. It can also autofill those repetitive code. Produces the boilerplate stuff, and then fills in those code that code for you. And it can also show some suggestions, right? So I'll show you later shortly, Ron, how you can actually ask Copilot to then show a list of solutions and so on, and then you can select from those solutions, from those potential solutions. And here's some stats that GitHub surveyed for, I think, 2022, more than 2,000 developers, and again, around efficiency and flow. So they say they are faster with repetitive tasks, 96% of them, and then perceived productivity, 88% of them, they're more productive, and then 74 or 75% focus on more satisfying work, which is brilliant. And his real quotes, right? So we don't need to sell it in a way. Pretty positive comments from various developers, various users. Again, we don't, I don't think we're changing in any way, and I'm sure there's links as well, which I can share. All right, let's demo that. So what I'm going to do, again, because the length of the demo, it's impossible to do it live. So I've pre-recorded it. And what we're doing here is that we'll be using this .NET app called eShop on Containers. So we'll be creating AKS cluster using Terraform. I'm not sure anyone here uses Terraform in their day-to-day. So it is a fantastic way to sort of show it. And as well as what we're going to do, we will deploy the application to target that AKS cluster using GitHub Actions, right? And this application is pretty cool. It is a cross-platform. It's a microservice-oriented architecture. So if you haven't actually come across this, it's pretty good. You've got the identity, catalog, ordering, microservice, and you build that as a deployment in AKS and deployment manifest. So you'll be able to see the various APIs there. Yeah, so pretty much what we're going to do is just walk you through the process and how we can make it easier for you to deploy that .NET app. This is .NET 7, I believe. That's already updated it, which is even awesome. And using that GitHub Action, using Terraform and Copilot as a way for you to reduce that time. So let's see. Let me just bring in the demo. So first of all, hopefully you guys can see it. Cool. Just let me know if you can't see it. So here's basically what we're doing here first, before we sort of get into the kind of Copilot encoding. We'll need to install GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code. So hopefully you guys are using Visual Studio Code. And I believe Visual Studio also have an extension for it, as well as JetBrains and other IDEs. And you also need to sign up, obviously, to Copilot. And there is a free trial for that. I think 60 days, if not mistaken, George, for the first one. And then also you can purchase as well. So there's monthly, it's not that expensive from memory. It's like $10 per month for personal use. And I think, ZLD, you already use it, right, for your personal project. Probably you can share more to the team.
And then they also released last week a business version as well, where they
late last year, exactly.
They're promising no, they just released the business Copilot business, where they're going to be private, kind of connection with the Copilot background from the company, and the way that you buy license, so that things will be simplified as well. And they're going to give you some extras on security, and there is some extra features there on the business version. And the individual version is much the same, but without those enterprise features there.
Yeah. exactly. So business has more features, obviously, than the personal one. But yeah, personal one here is something that we're going to be demoing here. And, it's pretty much kind of the same process, right? So in terms of the day-to-day activity, building code and so on, it's nothing different. And what you have here, as soon as you've got the extensions, right? So you got your Terraform extension as well as the GitHub Copilot. You can see kind of in the bottom corner there, there's a bit of logo near the pre-tier thing. I'm not sure if you can see it. That's basically where you can disable, enable, and change the settings of GitHub Copilot. And what we're doing effectively just create our file, right? So once we've got that, so we create a new Terraform file for the main deployment. And a bunch of stuff that we're going to be doing here is that I would like to make deployment unique or with some naming that you might want to conform. And basically what I have is I'll just create some pseudocode comments around how we create a new resource that will generate that unique ID with value of this and that. Initially, it didn't actually give me the right result or the result that I wanted to, but you can actually give a little bit more data, and then it will generate the right stuff for you. So sorry for this. I mean, if I go too fast, please just let me know. But what we have here, you see that different window coming up. That's basically the that suggestion of that extension. So if you press Control Enter, you'll be able to see that suggestion there. Okay, so what we have here, then I'll add some stuff here. So this is stuff that I wanted to go with, and I can see random integer unique ID. So basically, I want to get that minimum 10,000 to maximum 999, and you can see that it's actually starts building the right code for you. And if you like that suggestion, so what you do is just press Tab, and that will effectively just accept that, just like IntelliSense normally. Okay, so this one here, then I will need to create a new resource group, right, in Azure. And I want to use the concatenation using that unique ID that I've got previously. So again, it generates some suggestion for you, which is great. And you can see that I have var.resource group name dash the random integer from the previous resource. And then I've got you see actually I didn't even have to add anything. It actually says create a new AKS cluster with value from this and unique ID. So it kind of know the context of that, which is amazing. And I go through that. I'll sort of skip that quickly so that we don't have to wait. And it generates that sample for me, sample code. If I like it, I can press Tab again. If I don't like it, then I'll need to go and search for different suggestions. Just press Control Enter for that, and it's synthesizing various solutions in here. And I wanted to change certain things, right? I want to change the var.aks cluster name is my variable, and I'm happy with that. Then, as you can see here, bunch of variable already built into that. And then if you want to make changes to it, you can, obviously. So with this one here, with DNS traffic, I would like to just change that to something else. Cool. So with that, what we've got here, I wanted to add one other thing that I wanted to add is this HTTP application routing. It's not really recommended for your production AKS cluster, but for dev purposes, I wanted to make it simple to be able to just serve ingress and HTTP traffic. And once you've got in there, pretty much all done for you, right? So matter of just deploying it and give it a try. I don't know about you, but if I build a new template for the first time, especially if I had no kind of help at all, unless I copy and paste, most likely I will get an error. when I run it first time. And this time, unfortunately, it does, but I will show you why shortly. Cool. The next bit that I want to create is variables, right? So this is basically a list of variables that are used by that file. So you can actually understand the other file, what variables that are being used, and then I'll just say define variables used by this file, and then with default values. And also I want to ask it to use description as well. So if I just skip this, ask it with description, and then I do Control Enter after that, and then what it does, it generated this variable that are corresponding to the other file, which is amazing. This is saving you a lot of time, kind of building that by hand. I don't know about you, but this is one of the things that I'm not really keen in whenever I create a Terraform file.
It's amazing.
Cool.
It's amazing. It's like, code generation on steroids, and
Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah,
the nice thing
yeah.
there, Vic, is that Copilot is kind of every time that you accept something there, if you have authorized that, collaboration, you giving that feedback for the service to get better as well.
Yeah.
And if
Exactly.
you want the service to get better, just recommend that because
Yeah, telemetry settings, exactly. So you can actually change the settings to send data, anonymize data to GitHub, and then be able to then understand, what went wrong, what you don't like, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one here is just configuration of the Terraform, and I wanted to have backend configuration on this, and there's a bunch of stuff that recommended in here. Initially not as the things that I really want, but amazing that you don't actually have to change, screens or, doing other activity in a different browser using Bing or Google, whatever that is, to doing search engines or Stack Overflow, and then you can actually just see it in your IDE, in your VS Code, which makes things very, very
And you
easy.
pretty much create the whole thing. You create the whole thing there using
Yeah.
ChatGPT or using Copilot.
Yeah, I didn't Google at all, like in this time, or Bing.
And Copilot is Azure OpenAI service. That's why we're talking about,
Indeed. Oh yeah, one thing that we forgot to mention. Yes, exactly. So this is actually an application of, basically a service that uses Azure OpenAPI Codex.
Yeah, and the question about if it's a commercial service, yeah, it's being used already and being sold by customers, and not
Exactly.
just
And that partner as well.
using that.
Yeah.
There are other customers using that.
Yeah. And as you can see here, I'll just skip that, and it's just the Terraform configuration that you need to have. And I'll move on to the next bit. But before that, I'm going to show you a quick pic of Bing, right? So I tried to deploy this and create a GitHub action for it, but I got an error, right? So I'll show you. This is the error that I've got. And what it says is argument name this HTTP application routing enabled. So the one that I did add was actually throwing an error. And what I did is just use this Bing to do that. So I'll just say how to use HTTP application routing enabled. So this time I use it for this one particular error, but the amount of searches that you have to do is a lot less. And it gives me example as well. So it's, see, to use application in Terraform, you need to add it as part of add-on profile. And then I just copy and paste that, right? So I'll move it on to, I'll copy and paste that code and change that HTTP application routing enabled to be in there. So that way it worked fine. And I won't bore you too much on kind of the process of building this. But the key thing here is that you don't have to have a lot of kind of knowledge or previous, maybe you already have knowledge, but you you basically get a lot of assistance, and then you get more confident in trying new, whether that's new language, new framework, and so on, because it uses that GitHub Copilot that scans the library of thousands, millions of code that's available out there. So it's really, really good. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of suggestions which I used and make some changes. I want to use some variables and secrets to make sure it's secure. But if you didn't have, I don't have a lot of background on Terraform, and I feel that using this made it a lot easier. And it uses kind of the boilerplate code that's used by a lot of people already. So if you want to deploy it, for example, from Terraform, and they want to move to Bicep, for example, or ARM templates, it shouldn't be as a big lever to sort of pull. Yeah, so with this, I'll move on to the next demo, which I've already got this, right? So build, you should see that it will be deployed. And let me see if I got the other video. And I'm going to deploy that. So I'll just, this one here. So I've deployed that here in GitHub Action. So you can see that's the Terraform init apply and so on. And it gives me all the information there. So it's nothing really crazy. But the next bit, as you can see, this is the AKS part that's already been deployed. We will then need to deploy the eShop application, right? So the eShop application is pretty amazing. This one is even easier for like a lot of people, where I usually have to sort of figure out a lot of stuff around the application and build some manifests and various things, because this one already came with it. It makes things a lot easier, but at the same time, if you want to build GitHub Action, you can assemble it a lot faster too. So let me just open that up. So with this, what I did, I got instructions from the documentation of that eShop on containers. Again, I'll share the links there. And it's got a bunch of instructions in them, right? So a bunch of steps and so on. And I need to convert them into GitHub Action, GitHub GitHub workflow, right? And what I did, I didn't even try to attempt to write some code. I'll just write some pseudocode in them, right? So I just want to create GitHub workflow with the following steps, right? So here's the bunch of different kind of attributes of that workflow. So on push in dev branch, create a deploy job with default with PowerShell and working directory of that, deploy Helm, and then steps are checkout, log into Azure with secrets, set AKS context, then run a PowerShell script of that, deploy all mac.ps1. I don't know about you, it could take a while, right, to do that. But with this, I don't know about you, George, whether you've sort of written kind of workflow before. Yeah, it's amazing.
The question here is like, is that going to replace your job? No, it's not going, because you have to know how to ask, and you have to know what you need, kind of. The Copilot is just helping with the syntax. You don't have to memorize now syntax anymore. Then you spend your time trying to understand how the things works.
Yeah.
It's like the only thing you have to understand is like the 20 to 40% of the architecture and the components of the thing, and not the syntax anymore, because that's Copilot can help you.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree with you. And it's very, very easy. As you can see, the first solution has given me what I want. Again, I'll get rid of the other stuff there. But it's amazing that it can actually generate at least 80% of what you want. And then you can just modify the code to something that you really want, right?
What we used to do before, we Google that, we try to find like a repo that with something similar, then you copy the code, and you try to mix like 2 or 3 codes. These things doing the whole thing for us already, you know.
It reduces that friction. It's amazing, right? So it's great. Yeah. So as I can see here, right? So I just want to use, rather than secrets, I want to change that to variables in GitHub repo settings. And then what I want, then I'll just copy and paste that instruction, right, from the documentation, and then put them in the ran command, and it will then, I'll just need to replace the variables, the AKS cluster name as well as AKS resource group, or the resource group name there. And that's pretty much it. So that's the GitHub action that's created for you.
And then you have the application deployed.
Yeah, yeah. So the application and then deployed, right? And you can see the deploy app to AKS already deployed. Bunch of deployments, bunch of pods, replica states, whatever. And it then.
And you haven't changed anything. It's everything that was generated by Copilot.
Yeah, it's crazy. Again, we'll share it with you at the end. But you can see this one here is the URL of that web app, and I'll just access that, and very much deployed. You can see it's pretty quick. Whereas in the otherwise you have to kind of do a lot of the various investigation and findings. The documentation obviously helps.
You did that in very quick. I remember that you said, I'm going to try to deploy these, and you came back to me and said, yeah, I have done it. I said, wow.
Yeah, I was amazed. Because typically I'm a little bit pessimistic about my, time frame and so on. But this time, it's great. Got a lot of that services deployed and ready to go. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of best practices that we don't cover here. Again, this is just to demonstrate the GitHub Actions side of things.
And why we have to learn that? We have to learn to use Copilot, because otherwise it's like, can you compare a developer using Visual Studio Code and a developer using Notepad? Who's going to be faster? Probably the one using VS Code. Now it's the same. It'll be someone faster using VS Code or VS Code plus Copilot. It's an evolution, and I remember many years ago, people say, no, I don't need, I use Vim, I use Notepad, I use like a text editor. I know everything. But what I mean is that now, a developer with less experience or less skills, they can catch up with anyone. Now, there is less difference between the developers, and the difference would be knowing what the things means and what should be used and if it's right or wrong. And you have to be reading more about that, not knowing how to, syntax all these things.
Yeah, it is still very useful at the same time, but yes, as we improve the I guess Azure OpenAI capability, as well as GitHub Copilot and so on, this will become, I guess, what we call democratized, right?
Yeah.
Everyone without kind of a lot of syntax knowledge or memory, ability to do to memorize syntax will be less in the future. So what from basically what we actually see in the real demo here.
Vic, just before we finish, can I share my screen too?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one here is the interesting stuff. Go ahead. Want to demo the Copilot CLI?
We promised to what's Copilot CLI. If you go in GitHubNext.com, you can see all the projects that GitHub is working on. Is open that, by the way, it's not just for me. One of the projects, Copilot CLI. And by the way, Copilot was one of the projects here. you can see Copilot itself was a GitHub Next project, and now Copilot CLI. And as you can see, is a command line where you have these abbreviations like for Bash, for Git, and for GitHub CLI. But they're going to do the same thing that Vic was doing. They're going to try to help you to create the command. If I get my Bash and try to do the same thing, question mark, and you say create read string, that's Bash, and loop string. Read 5 strings and loop string. It was clever enough to create a loop and have like a read command where you're going to type and you're going to print that. But they said, okay, nice. Can I do more with that? You open here and you can you add call api.com for each string. I'm doing live here, it's not recorded. Vic, you're lucky, I'm doing live. And now he's calling, okay, looks good. Can you store API call without in a variable? There you go, there is a without there. Add default value on the go call. There you go. You put like a default value there. If the call fails, just get it there. And then okay, can you add content type? You add the content type on the call. Say change content type to, because I haven't set the type, to text, and so on. Now is the text playing there. and you keep going. He's creating the whole script for you. And if you want to apply the script, you say if call fails, print fail.
Oh, that's really impressive. I cannot wait to use it.
Is that impressive? You like it?
Really, yeah, super useful, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and make sure you sign up, right? So it's waitlist at the moment.
This one.
Yeah.
Can you list Docker containers? Oh, just say remove running containers. You put a Docker command to remove the Docker command.
So smart.
Then let's try Kubernetes.
kubectl, absolutely. You need to. No one remember all the kubectl commands.
Just say kubectl deploy web app. There you go. Is it a file?
Wow.
Then I don't know. Just apply a file, but you could ask more to be different. And add list pods. Then kubectl get pods. You don't even know the command, and then say create volume and attach to pod.
All right. Okay. Cool.
He's using files, the external files, but
you can actually just ask maybe like what's the file? Yeah. YAML file. Please show the file or something.
Yeah, he's trying, but look, everything depends on the instructions. And if you cancel here and you give all the instructions at once, that works better. If you say AKS deploy, AKS deploy. Yeah, AZ AKS create, resource group name, node count, enable add-ons, and it's a add CADA. I'm not sure if you can add CADA here. It's just CADA add OSM. Not add OSM extension.
It is still in preview, right?
It's because you have to ask, otherwise it doesn't make
waitlist.
sense, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to ask there. But if you give all at once, they're going to give a command that can do everything. I think that's amazing. And by the way, you can do Git as well. You can say remove branch.
Oh yeah. One thing that undo commit. That's probably the other thing.
Yeah.
No one remembers that.
Or how to resolve the conflicts, maybe.
Was that?
Yeah. Do a merge. Yeah. Exactly.
Do last commit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you type wrong, yeah, it resets off.
Nice.
Indeed. Very cool.
And you can give more instructions. Like if you say that, and you say comma, and you say
the last two commits or whatever. I don't know.
Last two commits.
But I want to keep the change.
And then create new branch or something like that. Create new branch. Yeah. Yeah, he create the branch he set.
Yeah.
And switch for that.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, it's still very good. If you get used to this command line and you forgot the command, you don't have to go to Google and I hope you enjoyed that. And if you enjoy, you can look here on Copilot CLI, githubnext.com projects, and also the NPN. That's how you install the Copilot CLI, but it's not available to everyone yet. You have to ask access, but soon will be available. And also, if you want to go for the documentation to customize the models, because that's the advantage now, Vic and Sheng, is like how you customize those models, and you can use, let's say, Python, REST, or even the portal there, and go and create models based on the other, base model, DaVinci, Ada, and bring your data. Once it's customized, you can deploy the customized version, and you can automate that using REST API or Python, and be training your model every day or a week or some, and keep improving with your data. Imagine like Vic, something with, I think I'm done. I think we did show too much already. I think it's enough. But I'm wondering, I know that GitHub now is getting your code as a context as well. But imagining training like Call Center, customizing the model to, with all the questions from your call center from the last 3 years or last 2 years, or and they pretty much going to answer all the questions from that,
Yeah.
I think it is amazing, and the bots are in trouble because now there's a next generation of bots. If you vote bot to someone, maybe you have to review now and see the next generation. And customers that's the main use case, to be honest, big call centers and like for the enterprise, how to get better, answers for the customers. And if there is someone on phone just answering basic things, they're probably going to have to do other things, most important things for the company, not be just giving links, that anyone like a model like that can do it. And
Yeah.
thanks so much. I think everyone. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, that's
And
super
that
cool.
was
Yeah.
there was one question about whether AI gonna replace our jobs. So I just pasted a link to a YouTube video. Again, you can play it at your maybe at your own time.
Thanks. That's my
That's a
concern.
joke one. That's a joke. That's a joke one. Yeah.
That's a joke though. It's a blooper.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
yeah,
I was really impressive,
super.
especially like I was always struggling about the bash commands. Every time when I need to write some bash command, I need to read the documentation and find out what the parameters mean. It's really, if we have a tool like that, just to tell them like the natural language, then definitely we can improve the productivity. That's really cool. Yeah. Do we have
Awesome.
any questions? I think I'll first ask a question. So I know, so OpenAI has so you can apply for their APIs, and also ChatGPT also has their APIs, and now we have Azure OpenAI API. So I'm just curious, what's the difference between these different APIs? Like when you do any difference, like if you use the OpenAI API directly or you use the OpenAI in Azure?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Like I said, it's a partnership between Microsoft and OpenAI. Then we get the OpenAI API and we provide the enterprise security, role-based access control, networking on top of that. Then we give as a service, and we also bring responsible AI on top of this as well. But the same API, when you even give access to the Open API itself, the parameters and everything.
Yeah.
Then we charge a little bit probably on top of that, but you get all the enterprise level. And yeah, and that's going to be growing.
Yeah.
As
So
well.
it is correct. So basically, the underlying service is obviously OpenAI because we got that partnership. But in terms of security features, the enterprise security features and so on that and love from Azure, that's basically what Azure OpenAI service is, right?
But Vic, we're not
yeah.
we're not calling OpenAI. Everything's deployed on Azure is kind of we're getting the models.
Yeah.
From OpenAI, and we deploy and we bring all those enterprise service on top of that.
Correct. Yeah.
And don't expect that to be available in other clouds. Probably not going to be available from OpenAI as they sell. And there are many customers calling the APIs from API itself that you can buy from OpenAI, or you can use from Azure, with all the enterprise level security that we need for organizations. And we use it for our products as well, like GitHub Copilot, Bing. Now we're bringing Windows as well. I think it's already public. There is a video. There is no demos, but will be available on Windows Search, and then it's coming to Office. It's coming to all the products. Satya already said, our CEO said, it's coming for all Microsoft products, and very soon.
Yeah.
It's already on Power BI, on Power Apps. You can write some code, some regex, I think, inside Power BI as well using that.
Yeah.
And there are customers integrating and offering these as a service already.
That's really cool. I think in recent years, the AI evolves very fast. I remember a few years ago, I used some AI service like Cortana or Siri. It's one issue with this kind of service like Cortana or Siri. It was very hard to have a conversation with the context. Like you ask a question and you ask a follow-up question, but the program cannot understand the context. Yeah, but now the ChatGPT has really improvement on that side. Yeah, that's really
And the main difference is that, many years ago, when something like that come out, it used to take like months or years for this service to be available for the companies, for the end users, for the companies. Now with Azure, all the new services pretty much are available. At the same time, they are available for Microsoft to use on their products, are available for the customers as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. And that's what is happening with OpenAI.
Cool.
At the same time that we are integrating with our services available to everyone.
Yeah. Thanks. I have another question. So, as a developer, I'm wondering, so how can developers and organizations we can stay up to date with the latest development in AI and the machine learning, something like that? And any resources would you recommend for further learning?
What do you think, Vic? I think Microsoft Learning, there are some documentation already that are, and it's growing. And I tell you what, everyone's working on something for that in terms of documentation at the moment. And you have to be watching on the Microsoft Learning docs and all the official Microsoft channels, like YouTube channels and the cloud developer advocates for on the OpenAI side.
Yeah.
And
so we pasted in some docs
MVPs.
in there. But yeah, certainly this will become very, very already hot, but it will be more intensive going forward. So any big events and even meetups and so on, there's going to be more of these. And I mentioned, because I work in the partner land, so there's a lot of partners that wanting to take advantage of this, because typically we talk to partners around, or when it's available in Australia locally. It's not about that. Now it's basically how can we take advantage of it as quickly as we can. So that's why we put a bit of a floodgate in there to make sure that there's not a lot of people we over subscribe our capacity there. So definitely sign up if you haven't done so. And then if you interested in Copilot and Copilot CLI, make sure you sign up to that as well. And if you have any particular scenarios that you want to talk to, and you need to help in that, and there will be some sort of pricing discussion or commercial stuff, more than happy to be part of that discussion. And if you want to be, if you want me to connect with your, I guess your management and so on, we can bring in our, I guess, commercial team as well on that. So this is brand new and we're kind of learning as well. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really good, big, if not already big, but it will be bigger. Yeah.
And if you're using Azure, just go for it. Don't, there's no reason for you to try to have the service from OpenAI, in my opinion, just because if you are an Azure customer, just get from Azure, because you have all the enterprise features that you need to offer this for your company, because you can play on OpenAI, on Chat, GPT, but at the end of the day, if you want to integrate with your applications, I think Azure OpenAI service would be the best option. And all the partnership now with Microsoft and OpenAI just became the next level of partnership. And it's public now, everybody knows that. And I think it's a great moment. And don't wait 2 months, because like I said, I was on leave when that thing came out, and I come back from holidays and looks like that was like 2 years happened. I don't know, but because in 2 months, and so many things happening in 2 months, and don't wait too long to give a go. Just give a go and try to integrate in your company, in your application, or any use case that you want to try, and let us know.
Yeah.
Feedback
Exactly.
is very important.
Yeah. We want to make it as quickly as possible available, obviously. And again, if you have particular scenarios, you want to sort of get things unblocked, just contact me or George, and then we'll be able to connect you internally and navigate the basically the Microsoft world. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and on the cloud native and containers, that's MySpace, AKS, containers, container apps, and all the the open source projects as well. That's what I work for more. That's my core job as a cloud developer advocate. But I'm also happy on Copilot and OpenAI now be integrated with everything.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to help on that as well.
Yeah, and myself as well. It's similar to, I do have some I guess definitely a lot of interest in the cloud native stuff. But as my current role, I deal with every single almost scenarios, right? So if you want to use data and AI technologies or some other kind of parts of Microsoft, I'll be your conduit in that sense, to be able to connect to other people.
Cool, thanks. Any other questions? You can type your question in the chat window or just ask. If no more questions, I'd like to thank George and Vic for joining us tonight and share your expertise on OpenAI and the Azure services. I think this presentation demo really, I feel really excited because I saw lots of potential tools and services I can use in future. Yeah, that's really cool. And I also want to thank all the attendees for joining us tonight. It's great to see such a community interested in the latest technology. So feel free to connect with our speakers and myself. If you need any like any help on any kind of, if you would like to hear more other topics, feel free to contact me. And maybe you can share our event on your social media, like in LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, whatever. We'll look forward to see you at next meetup. Yeah, once again, thanks all. Thanks, George and Vic, and hope you have a good night.
Excellent.
Sure.
And we had
Sure.
a very good rock turn up
Yeah.
as well. 20
Yeah.
people, I saw.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
See you
all.
next time.
Bye.